Charlotte, I'm going to start really with your bringing the courtroom to the conference. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing.
So it is a microlized transport conference first. We normally have lots of presentations on the main stage, which are fantastic and really interesting. But I think bringing a courtroom and a live trial that was a real case with names changed to show people what happens from the moment a road traffic collision occurs and actually what the serious consequences can be. So both for the driver in terms of long prison sentences for driving offences, which I think a lot of people don't know, and also for the company and the employer and the directors. There are many offences that they can be charged with as a result of a road traffic collision, which again carry heavy fines and or prison sentences for individuals. And I think it's something that is lesser known because a lot of the time operators think very much along the lines of public inquiry, traffic commissioners, which of course are very, very serious, but the Crown Court sends you to prison potentially. And I think these are the things that operators and individual drivers need to learn and understand about what their process is. If they had the call this afternoon that one of their drivers was involved in a fatal or serious road traffic collision, what's their process? What do they trigger? And how does how they react in those golden moments play out 18, 24 months later in a Crown Court? And those are the things and those are the issues that we really wanted to bring to life at the Microlized Conference.
And how important is it to sort of, to prepare, to be that prepared as an organisation?
And that's a great question, if you don't mind me saying, because these are the things that, unless you've been through it or unless you've heard about it, you haven't prepared because it may never happen to you, and it's not something that happens every day, thankfully, to those individuals. It does happen every day in general in the country, but I think unless you've actually had it, you don't know. So I think you have minutes to react in the moment. So the driver has minutes before they lose their mobile phone, so they lose all access to the outside world, all access to legal help. The police arrive very quickly. They take an account at the scene straight away when their driver's in shock, when they haven't had legal advice or representation, and they say all sorts in the moment. So a process from start to finish where the driver knows exactly what number to call to get through to a criminal lawyer is absolutely paramount, where the company knows exactly where they would go for advice, and where they have the driver represented from the scene. And importantly, a process that's trained out to drivers, where drivers know what they should be saying at the roadside to the police and what they needn't say at the roadside to the police. And that isn't about anybody hiding behind anything or anyone getting away with anything. Road traffic offences are not deliberate, but they are criminal offences. And it's really important that a crisis management policy is embedded in the company and trained out across the company.
What's the response been to you here today? I know you've been to microlized events in the past, but what's the response been to what you've been talking about, what you've been doing today?
I think people are really intrigued. I think the industry is changing in that we've done quite a lot over the last few years to bring this issue to life. Obviously, I've been, and I'm a great fan of the Microlized Conference in general. We exhibit here every year, and we have done bits and pieces in the compliance workshops. So I think the topic is in the open, but I think people are really intrigued to see actually what's an example of this. So we've talked about the theory of it, but actually we're bringing it to life, and I think people have generally come up and said, oh, this is the trial in the main theatre, we're going to stick around and watch that, because I think people are always intrigued with a jury trial. If you haven't done jury service before as well, I think people are intrigued for that. And I think also it's a little bit interactive, isn't it? Because they're members of the jury, they're taking the notes, and actually they're going to decide on guilt or innocence at the end. And I think that's a little bit of a twist as well for a conference like this.
And I think one of the things that obviously what you've got here, you've got people here. So you've got human interaction anyway. How key is that to what you do, to gaining an understanding, going across the transport and logistics industry, just having this human contact? How important is that?
It's absolutely crucial. Having conferences like this where you educate and inform, that is such a crucial role that you play in the part of operators, drivers, professionals, partnerships. Anybody who's here today is going to learn something, but actually there's no substitute for in-person interaction. The internet's great for information. Of course, we attend webinars and seminars and things like that. But actually just having the opportunity to speak to people, for people come up and ask questions, and to have the opportunity to educate in a way that's on a big scale, it's absolutely crucial.
In your opinion, how effective do you think some of the sort of educational and training programs out there are?
They differ. They vary. So I think some of them could do with being updated. There are some that are brilliant. I think with anything, there's a variance in standards, but I think some of the topics are not necessarily dealt with head on. Maybe they're not known about, or they're considered too difficult to deal with. But I think, a lot of people have come up to me today and said, well, actually, we don't have this as a topic in our courses, and we don't tell drivers what to do at the roadside. So unless they've seen me or they're one of our clients, they don't always know. And so I think it's that education piece that we're starting to open up in the industry, and that's why these events are so crucial.
Now, Charlotte, you've got quite a formidable reputation, I believe, at prosecuting authorities. So, can you just share a case study maybe where you can reflect on that?
Well, we defend drivers day in, day out. We defend companies day in, day out, and I think what we do is we respect the police, we respect the prosecuting authorities such as the HSE, but what we do is we stand up to them. So we make sure that they're not taking roadside accounts where they don't need to. We're actually, when the drivers phone from the roadside or the managers phone us, our lawyers are saying to the police, you don't question them. And if you do, it's not admissible in court because we've told you that. We told you we're coming. Where are you taking them? We'll see you at the police station. And we make sure that we hold them to account. The police have a job to do, absolutely, but so do we. And defending people and ensuring that they have the rights, especially when they're at the most vulnerable, is what we do best, because we need to be by our client's side in their worst times. And effectively, when a collision like that occurs, that is some of the worst moments of their life. And people who have been through that, either themselves or by helping a driver through it, will reflect on this and completely understand what I mean. Those moments are critical, and that's what we do with our clients. We hold their hand and we guide them through the process. And we just make sure that the police and the HSE don't take any liberties.
And you're also dealing with multiple lives across this, and it will have an impact on people's lives. That's it, isn't it?
Yeah, and you never forget about the victim's family and friends. These kinds of things, judges often say, and the judge who's with us today would also say, there are no winners in these cases. There's loss everywhere. There's loss with the family. There's loss with the driver and their families. There's loss with people who are affected by that, who have helped the driver. There's loss with the company and how they've dealt with it. Everybody is devastated by these things. So it's how you see a way through them in the best way that you possibly can. And that's what we try to do, is try to help people when they're in their worst moments, and whatever that help eventually looks like.
And finally, what would you like people to take away with them from here, from having watched your court case, having seen your panel discussion? What do you want them to take away?
The most crucial thing they can take away is that they need to have a process in those golden minutes. They need a phone number to call, not the insurance number, not somebody who's not necessarily going to pick up. They need a 24/7 number to a criminal lawyer who's going to help them in those minutes, those crucial minutes. They need to have that crisis management policy in place, trained out for blue light collisions across their workforce. They need to make sure of that, and they need to train their drivers into the things that they have to say under the Road Traffic Act, which is their personal details and the vehicle they're driving. Those are the things you're obliged to say in a road traffic collision. After that, they need to be telling the drivers that they need to wait for legal representation. And they won't go far wrong if they follow all of that. That is what they should be taking away from this trial today.
Charlotte, thank you so much for your time. I believe you've got to get back in there.
I do. Yes, thank you very much.